So in this video, quick comparison between these two very similar products, Aputure Fresnel lens and the iFootage Fresnel lens. There is a price difference, so let's kind of figure out why. Just so we're clear, this is not a sponsored video, and the most expensive one, the Aputure one, has a beam angle of 12 to 40. iFootage has the same exact one. Now you might think build quality is a difference, but actually they're pretty much exactly the same, all the same plastic parts and aluminum pieces. Literally have some of the same exact screws. As far as weight is concerned, the iFootage one is just slightly heavier. Aputure is a little bit more lightweight. So they're very similar, except for the main difference is that the Aputure one comes inside this soft case and keep it inside, whereas the iFootage one does not have a case, so you'll have to use the box that either comes in or just leave it like this. Quick little ease of use comparison, the iFootage one's a little bit stiffer when you go to twist it like this. Aputure, on the other hand, nice and smooth. I will say I've had the Aputure one longer, but it's always been this smooth to twist it, and the iFootage one, as soon as I got it, was that stiff. If you're wondering how these will hold up over time, like I said, hard plastic and the aluminum around here. I have dropped my Aputure one, so it actually has like a little bit of a dent right here, but it doesn't affect it from working. It didn't damage the lens. So, you know, you can kind of drop it and it will still work. So let's see how the light quality is going through the Fresnels by using the spectrometer to do a light reading. I'm going to be using the Zhiyun G60 to do this test. If you're interested in this light, I have a whole video on it and it's one of my favorites. So check it out after this video. All right, so 5600 Kelvin, 50% power. This is iFootage. And that was at 40 degrees. Now we're gonna do 12. So now let's do Aputure. 40 on the Aputure. And then 12. The off is on. This is the Aputure at 40 degrees. Pretty soft roll off. A little bit harsh in the center, but overall not too bad. This is Aputure at 12 degrees. So you can see that the roll off is pretty good. It softens out here on the edges and you get a really good shadow on it as well. All right, now we're gonna do iFootage. So this is the iFootage at 40 degrees. You can see that it's not quite as soft off. There's a bit of a ring here, maybe a little bit of a ring here, and then a ring there. Now, seeing it in person is not as terrible as you might see on the camera, but it's still pretty significant. Now I'm going to change it to 12 degrees. You'll notice that the roll-off gets a whole lot better. So it certainly isn't as fragmented. Still a little bit harsher right about here-ish, but not the worst I've ever seen. It might be helpful to know that Fresnels are typically used because people like that soft roll off, but it does intensify the light just a little bit. Usually when you have it down at lower degrees, like 12 degrees, it's saturating the light, it's creating a spot rather than a flood. Some of you might think that the numbers you saw from the light readings was not all that impressive. So that's where I would highly recommend you look at something like a spotlight mount. Those are super great. I have a whole video that covers spotlight mounts, but also every single modifier you would use for a light. Highly recommend you watch it because it will make a lot more sense of these things for you. Overall, I personally don't think either of these are a bad purchase, but I think the subtle differences make me like the Aputure one just a little bit more. If you're interested in either of these, I'll link them down in the description. Make sure you check out those other videos I mentioned. I'll see you in the next one. There we go.